Hey everybody, hope everybody's doing good today. Just wanted to take a moment and go over some topwater stuff with y'all today. Man, I have been catching a bunch of fish the last few weeks on topwater, and it's going to continue. It's going to continue for at least a couple more weeks. We're with climate change and everything. Our falls are getting warmer and warmer, which extends our topwater season longer and longer. And really, as long as that surface temperature stays like anywhere above the mid 50s, topwater fishing can be really good in the fall time of the year. And what I want to talk about today are my three favorite, what I consider my key Megabass colors and topwater lures. Topwater, I've always said before, the colors that you use in topwater, as far as the category of the lure itself, the topwater lure category itself, they probably have the least amount of impact of any lure category, even though it's still an important factor. But as far as like compared to like jerk baits and crankbaits and that type of stuff, the color on them is not as super critical, simply because you're attracting a lot of the fish through the commotion of the surface that the topwater makes, and therefore the color becomes secondary. But it can also be an important factor in deciding which is the best one to choose to maximize your efforts. So anyway, the three I want to talk about today are the ones that I've been using for quite a few years, and I'm sort of going to explain to you under what conditions that I use them. My first one is it's just the bone color. Basically, these are all Megabass diamantés, and any type of the bone color like this that you have, this is a real popular color amongst about any type of a walking bait category, simply because it resembles a shad. On the surface, when you're throwing this bait, slashing on the surface, even though it doesn't look exactly like a shad, it resembles it closely from underneath the water. The times that I like to throw, any type of the bone whitish looking colors are under low light conditions, and when you have water clarity sort of in that 2 to 3 foot zone. It seems like that's when this particular bait's best. Also, the whitish bone looking color topwater baits, they tend to draw a few more strikes if you have a lot of wind. And wind is a real deciding factor in getting bites on topwater or not, because wind can help you or it can really hurt you on topwater fishing depending upon the water clarity. The clearer the water is, the less impact that the wind has if it kicks up a little bit. Because, here on the Ozark lakes that I live in, Bull Shoals, Table Rock, that type of stuff, northern Arkansas lakes, man, I've caught a ton of topwater fish on walking baits, throwing them in, 1.5 foot, 2 foot waves. If it's real clear, those fish will come up and get it most of the time when you wouldn't even think they would. One of the big keys to fishing a topwater walking bait when it's windy is you need to cast against the wind or sideways into the wind. And normally this is against the way I like to fish. For almost every other technique that I use in bass fishing, I love to cast with the wind. I think the presentation's better, but you can't really do that with a walking topwater because it'll submarine on you. But if you throw it against the wind and come with the waves, you can even a 45, you can do it sometimes with the 45, but you got a pretty good bow in your line. The bait, you can actually make it look pretty good coming through a fairly large chop. So anyway, the white bone looking colors, 2 to 3 foot visibility, and really good on wind, really good in low light. Next one I like is a color that Megabass makes called the Kaiso shad. This is a translucent looking color, as you can see here. And I, like in all my categories, I classify a lot of them between the translucent sides like this and the flat sides or the metallics. And most of the time I'm using either a flat sided or a metallic in my topwater fishing. Now the Kaiso shad, or any type of translucent topwaters that you pick, are really good, if you've got super clear water, like water visibility, over 3 feet. I prefer it like 6 or 7 feet visibility on the days that you don't have much wind, or on the days that you got either sunny, partly cloudy skies. This is a bait that works really good under a little bit more subtle conditions when the the bass can see those baits a little bit better. Anytime that you have clear water, greater sunlight penetration, and not much wind, the bass can really study those topwaters a little bit better, and they can get a look at them. And when you're using the translucent side like this, the bait just seems more natural. It still gets their attention, but when they key on it from their visual sight reflexes, it can fool them a little bit more than if you're using the bone or the white. It's just a little bit more natural in the water. So, like I said, this is the one that I use under, tougher conditions, sun, not much wind, super clear water. Now, my workhorse color is like the Megabass Sexy Shad. Sexy Shad is a really good color, almost on every lure category that you have. The downside about Sexy Shad is that it gets fished a lot. It's probably the most popular color in crankbaits, topwaters, jerk baits, a lot of different stuff. It gets a lot. The bass see it a whole lot, but there's a reason for that, because they bite it really good. Anytime that I'm using like the Megabass Sexy Shad color, it can be in a lot of different conditions. This bait will catch fish in sunny, cloudy days. It'll catch fish if you've got 2 foot of visibility. It'll catch fish if you got 10 foot of visibility, and it gets bites in calm conditions or choppy conditions, both. It's a good all-around color. It's a subtle color. It's not as bright as you can see as like the bones or it's not quite as bright as like the bones or the whites, as you can see there. Yet it's not translucent, like the Kasori Shad is. So what that does, that gives you a little bit more of a range to throw this particular bait in. A lot of times, if I'm unsure about how good a topwater bite's going to be, and I'm just sort of experimenting, I'll start out with the Sexy Shad. And based upon the bites that I'm getting, or if I'm not getting bites, then I'll modify and I'll go to different colors. But this is the one that I usually start out with quite a bit. One of the big keys with topwater that you'll find is that as you get more experienced at fishing topwater lures, you'll be able to tell what colors that you need to use based upon the water clarity and the sunlight penetration and the wind. Because the way that when you throw the topwater lure out there, the way that it looks when it comes through the water, based upon those 3 conditions, the wind, the sunlight penetration, and the water clarity, the way that it looks in the water there is, to me, that's how I decide which topwater I want to fish. I want a topwater that like stands out a little bit but doesn't stand out too much. It's sort of in that mid-range. It's the same way that I choose my jerkbait colors. So it's sort of a matter of experience. When I'm talking about colors, like in topwaters or any type of fishing, I can explain it to somebody, from my point of view, what you're looking at, but a lot of it is just like, it's a sense of feel that you get. It's a sense of experience. It's sort of like somebody that's a really good cook. They may not know exactly, how much of an ingredient to put in. They just sort of experiment and they go by taste. It's sort of the same when you're choosing topwater colors. It's sort of the same deal. A lot of it is just how it looks. But anyway, that's my 3 favorite colors: topwater, Megabass Diamanté, or any type of Megabass topwater, Pop X, Pop Max, whatever it may be. Those are the ones that are my favorite. And I've yet to found a situation where when they're biting a topwater, they won't bite that particular one. But just to wrap up a few more tips with topwater fishing, a couple different things I want to recommend with you. Always make sure that you got a split ring, fairly small split ring. I don't like using a loop knot. You get tangled up on the front hook a lot. I never tie directly to the eye of a walking bait. It kills the action a little bit. You want to make super long casts. The longer the cast, the better. And a big key that I found in topwater fishing in the fall time of the year is when that bait hits the water, reel that bait super fast for like 5 feet. Don't even try to work it. Just like, make it go nuts across the surface, just reeling it fast, and then stop it and start working it. Because if there's a bass from a distance away, like 30, 40 foot away, that'll get that fish's attention initially. And then once you start your cadence, you can generate the strike with that. So that's another big key on that. Another thing is hooks with it. Very few topwaters come with the right hooks on it. I always like to go to the smallest hook I can get away with, because it gives your topwater better action. I use the Gamakatsu G Finesse trebles. It's a super strong, it's a light treble, it's really light, it doesn't weight the bait down. But one of the biggest mistakes you can make in topwater fishing is going to too big of hooks, because it will impede the action of the bait, and the action of a topwater is totally what gets you strikes on the thing. So that's a good thing to remember. Just choose the right color, make long casts, you know, pay attention to how that bait looks in the water and how it feels, and it'll definitely add up to a lot more fish for you. But now's the time to do it. You know, we're right in the middle. You know, if you live anywhere in the central part of the country, if you live in a part of the country that water temperature is over 50 degrees, here in Missouri right now, it's the first week of November, and water temperature is still 70 degrees, which is unbelievable, you know, for this time of year. They're still biting it right now. So anyway, hope you guys are doing good, and we'll check in later with another tip. See you.